Hi, we're at INTX in Chicago, and we are at the Technicolor booth, and Technicolor has come to the cable show, as it used to be called, with some pretty compelling new technology that we have the privilege of talking to Gary Gutnick about, who is the Vice President of Video and Broadband Solutions for Technicolor. Thanks a lot, Gary, for taking some time to talk with us.
No problem.
I find it particularly compelling that you're showing your high dynamic range technology, HDR technology here, because it's very much on everybody's minds.
Mm-hmm.
We've been reporting how HDR has really upset a lot of strategies
Right.
on the part of service providers who have been looking at UHD as a pure play and now are having second thoughts about the timing, sequencing of what they roll out. And indeed, the impact of HDR is so stunning that when it's applied to just 1080p HD and it's shown on a 4K TV set, it's really not that much difference.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thought is growing around the idea of, well, let's just make a high-end service that is tied to 1080p as well as 4K,
mm-hmm.
so that we don't have to rely strictly on 4K content
mm-hmm.
to generate an HDR experience on these new television
mm-hmm.
sets.
Mm-hmm.
Does that square with what you're hearing or seeing?
Well, first, I think we agree definitely at Technicolor that HDR is very compelling for the user. In fact, even for myself, even for all of us looking at it here at the shows, it's very easy in a left versus right scenario to see how the HDR content is very compelling for the end user and would motivate you to, perhaps take a new service or buy a new television set, these kind of things. And I do think, last year even we showed HDR on 1080p content, and it was compelling. So HDR by itself is compelling. HDR plus 4K and other technologies associated could roll together and make a compelling service offering too. And I do agree with you that it's caused everyone to sort of take a pause, because maybe 4K by itself is not as compelling or not the compelling service I want. Maybe I want to introduce HDR as part of my strategy to get to that next level of viewability for the user.
Now, there are several HDR solutions bandied about, different suppliers seeking to gain leverage in the standardization efforts. Are you guys a member of the UHD Alliance?
Yeah, in fact, I'm a founding member.
And so you're helping to drive that discussion.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting thing because there the competing strategies within that, they don't look immediately as though they could be melded in some final solution.
Yeah.
It's more like one or another is going to prevail.
Mm-hmm.
Is that how you look at it?
Well, we'll see how it sorts out this year through standardization. But at Technicolor, we've long been a fan of going the standardization route. I mean, if you look at our digital history and especially in the pay TV space, we were early contributors and members in MPEG-2, and it's continued through ABC and all the way today through some of the HDR technologies. So, we'll see how things shake out in terms of standardization this year. But we are very committed towards proposing our solutions towards standardization in a way where they can be hopefully widely adopted. And as we saw a little bit ago when we were looking at the demonstration, we're one of the things that we talk to our cable customers and our satellite customers as well is about some of the backwards compatibility of our solution, where we can send along a base layer plus an enhanced layer, where the base layer really has our traditional legacy sort of standard dynamic range information, with the enhanced layer bringing the HDR metadata to allow you to, from a broadcast point of view, send perhaps 10% more bits and be able to deliver an HDR service, but still be able to deliver a legacy service to a legacy device. And we think that's very critical for our customers, especially some of our customers that are at this show.
I find it interesting, speaking of the demos, that you're running HDR and you're doing a side-by-side where one is 4K upscaled HD content, I assume, shot with an HD camera, and then on the other side is the HDR enhancements that you've added. but it's shown on a very current generation TV set. It's not some advanced. Its luminance range is at the lower end of some of the scales we're talking about with HDR. You're using the color gamut that goes back 20 years, and the so-called Rec 709 that's now being talked about as antiquated and being supplemented with the CP3 cinematic, or the Rec 2020, the ITU's really big color gamut. So nonetheless, even though you're using the old color gamut, and even though you're using a current generation TV set, as we can see in the demos, the difference is profound.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, we've shown, for example, at CES this year, we showed a couple of different HDR demos, and one of them, it was the second demo that we were showing there, very similar to this one with the side-by-side comparison with just as you say, 709 content and so forth. You know, it was always sort of very compelling to be able to show that to retailers, to TV manufacturers and so forth, just to sort of make the case that says, if a consumer walks into a store and he sees these two things side by side that we can see in our booth, you know, this HDR is going to be quite a compelling motivation to buy the set on the right rather than the set on the left. So you're absolutely right that even without dialing every potential variable that you could toward Ultra HD, you know, HDR is a compelling technology and could potentially be a compelling technology even alone.
Yeah, and by this demonstration at least, working without waiting for a new generation of TV sets in the marketplace, which kind of changes the discussion a bit as to how soon you could actually start looking at doing HDR.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess, you know, there are several other things going on here, and we don't want to consume all of our time with HDR, but I just want to leave it with one last question, which is, you're a global company, you've got customers everywhere. Where do you see HDR taking hold?
Well, I mean, definitely most of the, from a customer point of view, most of our dialogue has been here in North America and also in Western Europe. So, and a little bit more in North America than in Western Europe. So I think, you know, in terms of our customers, the network service providers, the cable MSOs, the satellite providers, we see that it's probably as likely to be a U.S. launch as anything. But very quickly, also in Western European geographies, we see a lot of traction and a lot of compelling reasons to do things there.
Are you dealing with any of the over-the-top suppliers like Netflix and talking to them?
Well, as Technicolor, holistically, yes. As Connected Home, which is the business division that I represent, that's here at the show, we don't provide, you know, we're primarily providing CPE to go into the home, so we're not, we can't count Netflix as a customer, but from a company perspective, production services, some of the other business divisions at Technicolor, yes, you know, we're doing some work with the OTT providers, Netflix included, but as well as others.